the Leafs see their window of opportunity right now. Like Canadian division, you're playing against Canadian teams in the first 2 rounds of playoffs. There's a clear lane, a clear path to the Eastern Conference Final.
Directly, yeah.
And then if you win that one, you go to the
Who
Cup
knows?
Final. And then who knows what happens there?
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have made it clear to the rest of the league that they are going all in.
Apparently, like Laviolette and like Vrana, like he didn't really like him. So I guess that's the main thing behind it. But like, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't know how much better Mantha is, but yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Welcome back to Unlimited,
Right.
episode number 45. Normally I have the guests Jay and Omar on for every 5th episode. This is an episode where I will not be having them on. This is an emergency podcast. So Omar, Jay, don't be mad at me for doing this. You guys will be on next episode. Farzan Dubash is on the podcast today to talk some NHL trade deadline moves and what the Leafs did. They made a couple moves. We got to talk about them. I felt it was necessary to do this podcast right now. Farzan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Sorry to break that streak you had going there.
It's my fault.
Wasn't aware of that.
No. Yeah. It's all on me. You have nothing to do with it, and I'm happy that you're on to talk about it today. The streak was gonna break anyways at some point.
Thank you for having me.
There is a little bit of audio delay, I think, in our connection, but there's no worries. We're good. Right. It's just like a second, I think, but hang with us and we'll be fine along the way. So let's get right into what the Leafs did. They made a couple pretty big moves, I would say. No Taylor Hall, no big fish, but they did acquire some, sneaky little players that I think can be big helps to them. So the first one that they did on Sunday, Nick Foligno, the full trade, Nick Foligno and Stefan Noesen to the Leafs, a 2021 first-round pick and a 22 fourth-round pick to Columbus, and then a 2021 fourth-round pick to San Jose. It was a 3-team trade. The Blue Jackets also retained 50% of Foligno's contract before trading him to San Jose. Then San Jose retained 25% of the salary before trading him to Toronto. A lot of complicated stuff, but it works out well with the cap, and Kyle Dubas and Brandon Pridham, they dealt with that well, and they figured all out with the shenanigans. So they're set with the money. What are your thoughts on Foligno and the trade?
As I think, I wasn't the biggest fan of it when I saw it at first. I didn't like giving up the first, and then after the Taylor Hall deal, I was a little less pleased with it as well. I didn't like giving up the first for a guy who's a pure rental. Like, he's not re-signing here. They can't afford him unless he takes a very low contract or they move Kerfoot or something like that. I don't think he's re-signing here. Okay. But after thinking about it, if you look at the retention, that's like they're getting him at 25% of his salary, which is $1.3 million. That enabled them to do some other stuff like Rittich and Hutton and all those. I don't think that happens if you don't get the double retention. As a player, like, I love it. I think he's a very good fit for the team right now. He's an elite defensive forward. He doesn't really provide much offense, but they kind of have that. You play him on the third line, you play him on the PK, like, that's a very good defensive forward. That's going to give the Leafs another element to maybe, like, if they want to run like a shutdown line in the playoffs, with a line that doesn't have to worry about scoring at all, that's just worrying about just keeping the puck out of their own zone. I think he definitely helps you with that. And I saw this pointed out on Twitter a lot. The last 2 years, he's been the captain of a team that beat the Leafs in the first round and beat Tampa in the first round. So that's experience. That's some leadership. I don't think that's really ever a bad thing. So
he knows how to upset teams.
Yes. That'll be needed if the Leafs makes the conference finals, because I don't think they'll be the favorite against anyone there. But yeah, I don't hate it. I'll wait to see how it plays out. Obviously, as the farther they go in the playoffs, the better it's gonna look.
Right.
But
why would you hate it though? Just because of the return mostly?
Well, part of it is the return, and also just, I don't know, like, it feels a lot better today based on some of the other returns that like went around. Like it's tough, right? Because he's a good NHL player. He's been playing in the top 6 for Columbus for like a decade now, but like, he hasn't broken 30 points in like 4 years. You're giving up a first. Sure. I realize it's going to be a late first ideally, and this draft hasn't been very well scouted because a lot of these guys haven't played in a year. So I guess from that sense it makes sense, but just yeah, I guess maybe like we just have to stop thinking about it as a first. We have to think about it as like a pick between like ideally like 20 something and 32. So like when you look at it like that, I think it's a bit better.
I think, Craig Button kind of put it best. Like a first round pick this year is more like a second round pick because like these NHL GMs, like they're ranking these junior players based off of their 2019 rankings because there hasn't been an OHL season yet. So it's tough to judge, where these players are at. And I think teams are a lot more comfortable with giving away high round picks. The Leafs don't really have any picks in the 2021 draft now after trading away this pick here. But as for Foligno, I think like it's not, well, okay. First of all, a lot of people are comparing this to what could have been with Taylor Hall. And, you see Taylor Hall get traded for a second round pick and you're like, and the Leafs gave away exactly. And they acquired Anders Bjork as well. The Leafs had to trade a first, not a second, to get a guy who is worse. There's no question Foligno is worse than Taylor Hall, and they had to give up more to do it. Nick Foligno is more of what the Toronto Maple Leafs were lacking and what they need over Taylor Hall for sure. Taylor Hall can come into your top six, score a lot of goals, probably alongside of either Matthews or Tavares. He's going to provide the speed, but Nick Foligno provides more of that grittiness, physicality, feistiness, forechecking abilities, defensive, good defensive mindset that you talked about, help you on the penalty kill. He can play a bit of power play, a lot of versatility with Nick Foligno. And Taylor Hall, he's not that good defensively. He can't play on the penalty kill.
That's fair. Yeah.
He's fast. He's north-south. Foligno is more of a banger, and I think this is more of a good fit. And I'm okay with really giving away the first round pick. I think essentially, we weren't supposed to have a first round pick last year, but we acquired it from Kapanen.
Yeah,
and we
got
Jim
Rutherford for that one.
Exactly. So. And we got a stud player in Rodion Amirov. So hopefully. we don't need a first round pick for this year. And honestly, if you're going for the cup, if you're any team in contention for the Stanley Cup, you shouldn't be holding on to your first round pick. You should trade it. If you need to upgrade, there's no point of hanging on to it. So I really like Foligno. I don't mind the what we had to give up for him. No, we're not really talking about Stefan Noesen at all. I don't think that's really anything. It's just a depth piece.
If he plays in the playoffs, that means you've had 4 or 5 injuries. He's probably better than most teams 18th forward, which is a good thing. But if you're getting that far into the depth, you're probably in trouble. But it's probably just a good addition. I remember he played for New Jersey in the playoffs a couple of years ago. He was a part of a decent fourth line for them. So he can play, but I don't think he's really much there.
Yeah, I guess he'd exactly. Like you said, he's only going to come into the lineup if there's significant injuries. The Leafs have a ton of forward depth right now. And I guess it was just something to do with the money, maybe that they, maybe. Or I think there was even talks that they might put him on waivers. He might not even be a part of the team moving forward. So let's not read too much into that. It's just it's a nothing player, watch him score the Stanley Cup game winning goal.
Would not hate it. But
we're happy he's a Leafs,
Agreed.
He's a Toronto Maple Leaf at the end of the day.
Former first round pick too from Ottawa. So that would be fun.
Oh, okay. There you go. Maybe we can turn his career around.
10 years ago, but
Oh, right. All right. But I'm a really big fan of Nick Foligno, captain of Columbus, and Columbus, not the greatest team, but they upset Tampa, like you said, and he went through that playoff series. He knows Toronto very well and how they played in the bubble last year. I'm really liking, the vibe of this team right now with the young guys and the older guys. And we'll talk more about just the Leafs in general after we get through the trades and what we think of this team moving forward. But they made a couple more moves. So let's talk about, actually, before we get into more moves, where do you think Foligno fits in the lineup?
To be honest, obviously this would change depending on how Galch plays, but based on how Galch has played so far, Galchenyuk, I don't want to take him out of the top 6. Like that game against Ottawa, he's been buzzing every game. He only has one goal to show for it, but he's got quite a few assists. He's got quite a few posts. Like he looks like a guy who's hungry to play, who's hungry to stay in the top 6, hungry to like get opportunities. And I like him as a fit no matter which line he's on there in the top 6. And then you've got Hyman. So the question then becomes, do you want Hyman to anchor your defensive third line, or do you want Foligno to do it? And to me, I think the upside Hyman provides in the top 6 is greater than the upside Foligno provides there. And you're not really losing anything either way on that defensive third line. So I see Foligno playing on the third line. Maybe they give him, I don't know, maybe second power play time. Maybe they try him instead of Simmons as a net front on the power play. But at 5-on-5, I think he gets third line, maybe second line if Galchenyuk falls off a little bit.
So, okay. So do you think like Galchenyuk will stay with Matthews and Marner on the first line or drop down to Tavares line when Nylander comes back?
Honestly, he's been good in either spot, but I think you got to go with Matthews, Marner, Hyman, because you know that's like one of the best lines in the NHL this season when they've been together.
For sure. I like last game really kind of changed my opinion on it a little bit. Like Galchenyuk, Matthews, and Marner were terrific together, and we'll see how they do tonight against is it Montreal? Montreal on the road.
Montreal tonight, Calgary tomorrow. Yeah,
Calgary tomorrow. So if that line keeps producing, then you stick with it. You know, I think Galchenyuk he's really impressed me. I wasn't expecting such a hot start from him, and like even though the points haven't really come, you know, like it's not like he's getting so many points already, but just the creativity that he shows on the ice, some of the passes that he's making, his shot is really, really good. He can't buy a goal, but his shot is pretty powerful. But yeah, I think Foligno, like he's definitely a top 9 guy on any team
for sure.
But on the Leafs, it is tough to put him into the top 6 because of the depth that they have and the star power as well. Hyman, you know, there's guys like Mikheyev who could be a top 6 player as well. Galchenyuk now. So I don't know. I think he'll definitely like flip flop between the Tavares line and I guess the Kerfoot line or whoever plays third line center. But yeah, definitely penalty kill, and I think they'll give him power play time as well. I don't know, like what they're thinking about doing with the power play now. Like, do they leave it Matthews on one and Tavares on one, or do they stack it? Because I think Nick Foligno could be one of the best net front presences on the Leafs.
For sure.
On the power play.
Yeah. My thing with the power play is like you got to change something because nothing's working right now, right? So maybe he gives them that spark the same way Simmons did earlier in the season. It felt like every time Simmons scored a goal before he broke his hand, like it was just like a rush of adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like to the team. I think there were a couple against Edmonton, like really big ones. Then he broke his hand. He's kind of fallen off a bit, but I think Foligno can provide something similar there on the power play. Like
and if you have 2 units that can do that can have a clear guy in front of the net,
sure,
just
absolutely.
Screening the goalie and tipping home pucks or getting rebounds, like that's
perfect.
Nightmare for the goalies.
Yeah. You could even like load it up with 2 of Simmons, Foligno, and Hyman. Put 2 of those guys in front of the net at any time, and then that's just more mayhem. That just gives you a little bit less space up top. But
yeah,
who knows? They've got so many good forwards.
Exactly.
Like you can't really go wrong on the power play, I don't think.
So many options, and I think he's gonna fit in really nicely. But like just the biggest thing with Foligno, like I think it's gonna be the off ice stuff. You know, his leadership,
for sure.
What he's gonna help the young guys out with. But yeah, we'll talk about more about the overall Leafs team in a bit. So David Rittich, Big Save Dave, is a Toronto Maple Leaf. He stole the show against us earlier in the season, multiple times, shutouts. Couldn't buy a goal against this guy, and now he's a part of our team. The Toronto Maple Leafs have acquired David Rittich from the Calgary Flames for a 2022 third-round pick. Calgary also retained 50% of his contract in this one. Kyle Dubas, he does not want more salary on his team. He wants teams to retain as much as they can. and it worked out. You know, Calgary, I guess they're prepared to move on and sell, as we saw today with Sam Bennett as well. They're not going all in this year. So yeah, David Rittich, what are your thoughts on that goalie signing or trade?
I mean, the first thing that tells me is that they're not expecting Anderson back for the regular, at the very least, like till the end of the regular season, because you're not getting a guy like Dave Rittich, who's been good, who's been kind of like a 1B in years past, probably even a 1B this year. He's played, I think, almost the same amount as Markstrom because Markstrom was hurt for a while. But you're not getting a guy like that to be your third goalie and to just like sit on the bench. I don't see that. That doesn't seem realistic to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, if Anderson gets healthy and plays well, obviously that's great. And then you just have 3 great goalies. But I don't see that happening. I think this means that either Anderson's injury is a little more long term, or they just want him to like take some time away. I don't know. I honestly don't know. They've been very quiet about that, but I think this is kind of the sign to me that they don't expect him back.
Yeah.
As for the trade itself, like I really like it. Obviously getting Calgary to retain probably helped them with getting Hutton today. I guess we'll get more into that later, but just on itself, like he's a good goalie. He's a good 1B. He can probably give Campbell a bit of a breather. Campbell obviously isn't the healthiest guy either, so I like getting a guy who can like step in a pinch and start and is better than Michael Hutchinson.
Yep.
As well as Hutch has played this year for the most part. Riddick's better. I don't think that's a contest. So like overall, I just really like this one. I don't think there's a real downside to it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not like the most the best looking trade, I guess, or like the most I don't know what the right word is, but it's not like a standout player that you're getting. You're getting a guy who's a depth goalie, who's going to be better than Hutchison, who can be, that safety net if Campbell gets hurt or if Freddy can't come back. And I agree. I don't think Anderson is going to come back anytime soon, because even Sheldon Keefe has openly said, like, there's no timetable for his return. He can't even give us like a week-to-week thing.
They don't know. Yeah.
He's going to be out 3 weeks. They can't say it. 4 weeks, a month, 2 months. They can't say it. So that's definitely worrisome for Leafs Nation. And they had to go out and get someone. But is Dave Rittich like, good enough like to go on a long Stanley Cup run? And I know he's going to be the backup, right? But
yeah,
still, like,
I mean,
are you content with Jack Campbell and Dave Rittich potentially going, well, hypothetically, the entire playoffs?
I mean, I look at it this way. You can't. I feel like as far as like third goalies go, as far as backups go, he's probably as good as most backups on like contending teams. Like I agree. The one I look back to is like Colorado. They had 2 good goalies last year and they both got hurt in the playoffs. And then they had to play Hutchinson, who was good for a couple of games. And then in game 7, he kind of imploded and allowed 5 goals. I think I wouldn't say comfortable, because obviously if your goalies get hurt and you have to go to a backup in any situation, it's not great, especially in the playoffs, right? But I'm more comfortable than I would have been with Hutchinson, obviously. Right. Rittich doesn't have much playoff experience. He played, I think, 1 game in 2020 for them in the bubble. But as far as third goalies go, as far as who's available, the only other guy I can think of that would have been, no other goalies moved, right? Or I guess Dubnyk, but Dubnyk's not very good anymore. I would have liked Linus Ullmark, but that was always like a far-fetched thing. I think Buffalo's going to try and re-sign him. As far as goalies available, like I think this is probably as well as they could have done, and you didn't really have to give up much to do it. Like we said, like the draft. Oh, was it a pick this year or next year for Rittich?
2022. It seems like there's just so many picks from 2022 going, and like hardly any from 2021, just because, like I said, the uncertainty of this draft. But you want to finish what you're saying there?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's a third. I trust the Leafs to be able to find value there, but given their scouting department and everything like that, I guess they feel that, okay, we can probably either reacquire picks later or we can trade down to get more picks, because we know Kyle Dubas loves to trade down and get multiple picks for one. He's done that quite a few times. So I figured they're just thinking, okay, they're like, this is our chance. We're getting to the conference finals. At minimum, that's the bar for this year. If we don't do that, it's a complete failure. We're going to do everything we can to get there. We don't feel confident in Hutch as our third goalie. We don't want to take risks if Campbell gets hurt. And
basically second goalie. Because if Anderson doesn't play, right? Like he's your backup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I think this is as well as they could have done in terms of getting a goalie. Like I like the logic behind it. I like the move. Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah, it's a move that they had to make. Like, definitely, you don't want to have Hutchison as your backup goalie heading into the playoffs. That's just super risky. Like, even in the way that playoffs work, like even if there's no injury to Jack Campbell, if he has a couple bad games, you might not want to play him in the third game. You might want to go to your backup guy. So now they have a decent tandem. It's not. I see David Rittich kind of like an Anton Khudobin. Like he's an older guy, not as old, but he's an older guy who can win you around. He can steal you around, I think, if need be. But I don't know if he can win the cup. Like Anton Khudobin didn't win the cup, obviously, but he made it to the Stanley Cup final. He was like 2 games away. But it's a decent player.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I look at the Leafs like I don't see the Leafs as being a team who needs a goalie to steal them around. I see the Leafs as a team that needs a goalie to give them 905, 910 goaltending. And then I think the offense will take care of the rest. And I think Rittich does that. And also I just looked this up. I didn't realize this. He's younger than Campbell.
Oh, wait, what? Rittich is younger
by a year.
Yeah. Oh,
he just
I didn't know that. Wait, really?
No. Yeah, like they're both like almost 30, but like I don't see the Leafs as a team who need. I mean, maybe if you like play Colorado or something, then you need a goalie to steal you around. But other than that, I see the Leafs as a team like you just need average goaltending, I think, and you're gonna win most of your games.
David Rittich is 28 years old.
Yeah, he is.
I did not know that. I thought he was like an older guy, like 33.
Nope.
Jeez. Okay.
He came over late.
Okay. So you know what? This guy isn't washed up. Maybe I'm a little bit more confident in him. Yeah, and I've heard great things about him. He's a great person too. For sure. And I think the Leafs just keep adding good leaders and good people to the team. Yeah, I mean, it's still like the age doesn't change my opinion that much on him. I think he's just still a decent guy. And 905, 910, like let's hope it's not that low and he does play better, because I don't think that's going to win you in the playoffs. You need a guy to be solid in net and steal you games, because the offense we've seen with the Leafs in the Columbus series, the offense could show up. True. Yeah. If you're playing a more physical team, it might be harder to score goals, and it tightens up in the playoffs. So you need goalies to make those key saves, because they're the deal breakers. True, yeah. But I mean, I was thinking about this today. Like, I don't remember how Frederik Andersen plays anymore. Like, it feels like it's been such a long time since he's played a game. Like, how did the Leafs even play with him? Like, I feel so much more confident in Jack Campbell being the starter.
I almost feel bad about it, because like in that first year, that 2016-17 year, they don't make the playoffs without him. Like, he stole games. He battled. I think he had like 1 or 2 concussions, some leg injuries. Like, he battled through all of that. They made the playoffs. He wasn't the best in the playoffs, but that was a young team and they weren't giving him much help. Yeah. And then that next year, I don't remember if you remember the game we went to, game 3 against Boston, that stick save on I think it was Pasternak backdoor. But I feel bad, because he was like the backbone of the team. He carried them. And now it just seems like they don't have confidence in front of him, and he doesn't have confidence in himself, which isn't fun to see. I don't know.
It's not ideal.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think, I think the beginning part of his career in Toronto is mostly mental. And that first year, like, it didn't get off to a good start at all. His October and November were awful.
Brutal.
And really, really bad. But then when it came to, the important games in, April, he stood on his head. Even though they didn't win that series against Washington, he kept them in it to force a game 6. And now, in his last couple of years, I don't really think it's been mentally challenging on him. It's been physically. Yeah. And you can't really blame Freddy too much. He's played so many games. And for the most part of his tenure, they hadn't had a backup goalie, Jonas Enroth was here.
God.
Michael Hutchison, Curtis McElhinney.
Garrett Sparks.
Curtis McElhinney was was okay, but
Yeah.
like it's exactly still not like a stable guy. Garrett Sparks, yeah. But now having this depth, Campbell and Rittich now, and even Hutchison, I guess, as your fourth guy, like now is the time that you want Freddy to be healthy, and because then you can actually sit him some nights and he doesn't have to
give him
play
rest,
like even if it's not a back-to-back game and it's just a game where you have a couple of days of rest in between, you don't have to play Freddy. You can play a solid guy like Campbell, who you know can get you a win. That just hasn't been the case, and it is sad to see. But like at this point of the season and Campbell going on an 11-game win streak, if Freddy is to come back anytime soon, probably not.
He's not
but
the
when
starter.
Exactly. He's not the starter. If playoffs started and, they're both healthy, he's not the starter. Jack Campbell is the starter.
I agree. It's unfortunate too, because it felt like the plan this year was, okay, Freddy's going to be the starter, but we're going to spell him a lot more. We're going to let Campbell get a lot more games. And then in a second game, Campbell gets hurt. So that's out the window. Mm-hmm. So Freddy has to play pretty much every game now. And then they give Hutch that one game against Ottawa. He gets killed. And like, it's just unfortunate situation all around. Obviously, I wish the best for him. Like, it's not his fault that he played more minutes than basically any other goalie over the past 5 years. And it's taken a toll on his body. But it is what it is at this point. Jack Campbell has played himself into the spot.
I still think that, like, as good as Jack Campbell has been and how confident I am in him and maybe not just so much him, but I'm more confident in the way that the Leafs play when he's in net and their defensive, like their defense in general has been great this year. Their defensive game has been great. I feel like they're a lot tighter around the net and better defensively as a whole team, forwards, defense, and goalie. But can Jack Campbell like lead you to the promised land and like do the thing? I'm still iffy about that. I think Frederik Andersen has to get healthy and he has to be he has to be at least on the bench at some point in the playoffs if they want to make it to the conference final or the cup final and win. Like, I don't think a Rittich Campbell tandem can win you a Stanley Cup.
Well, let me ask you this. Before last season, did you think that Anton Khudobin could lead a team to the Stanley Cup final?
Definitely not. You're right.
Right.
You're right.
Like,
for sure.
The thing with sorry. I'll just be quick. The thing with goalies is that like you never know how they're gonna play come playoff time. Like Binnington came out of nowhere. Like I go back to like 2010, Yaroslav Halak came out of nowhere, and he's been riding on some of that success for like the past 10 years almost.
Yeah, baby.
Like I think all you can do is give yourself goalies that have been proven to be decent, and then hope they get hot. Because that's how teams win cups at this point.
I think so. I think Khudobin is a little bit different though, because first of all, like they didn't win the cup in the end, and you could see like I think round 3, round 4, like he was dead tired.
Oh, for sure he was.
Like he was giving up a lot of goals, and Dallas was just outscoring their opponents to win the games. And then in that Tampa series, like they're out to dry. Like even though they pushed it to 6 games, right? But they had no life in that final game. And I think like Bishop was healthy for most part of the year. So it wasn't like Kudo, or was he or not? Was Bishop just completely out the regular season?
I don't remember. Let me check how many games. I remember him getting hurt partway through because Ben Bishop's hurt more often than he's healthy at this point in his career. Let me check how many games he played. But
I feel like with Campbell now, just the workload that he's getting put at him in the regular season is just a lot. And then if you carry that into the playoffs, it's just going to be even more of a toll on him. But then again, you do have Rittich now. So, I mean, I'm kind of in the air with the idea. Like, I agree. If a goalie gets hot, you can do some damage. You can go a long way. But I don't know. Ideally, you wouldn't want to have that tandem, and you would want to have a stud goalie like Andersen, even though he hasn't been a stud goalie. It's a confusing situation, but I don't know. Maybe Jack Campbell is the guy. I don't know.
Well, one way or another, I think we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
What I hope they do is, I agree with you. I think they should give him rest because I don't think he's 100% either. Like there've been a few times I've seen
No.
him like
Yeah.
wince when he's getting up after going across the crease, and I'm just like praying that he's not hurt. But I think having Rittich now, I hope they split the games almost like 50-50 because like at this point, division's basically locked up. Even if you play like 500 for the rest of the season,
Yeah.
you should rest guys. You should get everyone ready for the playoffs because that's the goal. Like who cares about the President's Trophy? Who cares about any of that? That doesn't matter. It's playoffs. So I'm hoping that they know that, and that's why they got rigged so they can play Campbell a lot less. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
So yeah, like Bishop, right? He played 44 games in the regular season, and then Kudobin. I didn't really check Kudobin, but I assume
like
he played like maybe less than that because what was it like was it 60 games? Around 60 or 62. So yeah, it must have been like between 15 to 20 games. And I guess if the season keeps going along with Campbell starting almost every game, he's going to play a little bit more than that.
Yeah. Could have played 23.
23? Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really want to compare them too much, but
that's fair. That's
it's
fair.
It's tough to say. But yeah, I think Jack Campbell is a great goalie. I think that he's definitely shown that he can win a lot of games and that the team can play well in front of him. 16 games in the playoffs is just a different story though. But it would be a hell of a story if he was to go on and he's the goalie to lead them to the cup. I don't know. Let's hope Anderson gets healthy. That would make me feel better. I guess that's the best way to put it. Anderson healthy.
Fair. Yeah.
Even on the bench.
You can never have too many good goalies.
Exactly. That would make me feel a lot more comfortable, even if he's not the starter, just to have him back and knowing that he's good to go would be great. Oh yeah. We talked about Dave Rittich for a lot there. I think maybe a bit more than Nick Foligno. So the Ben Hutton trade, the Ben Hutton trade that kind of it broke after 3:00. Another buzzer beater for the Leafs there. So the Leafs got Ben Hutton from the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for a 2022 fifth-round pick. I guess to put that into comparison, Jordy Ben was another guy out there, and he ended up going to Winnipeg for a sixth-round pick. So the Leafs had to move up one round to get Hutton, who I believe is a lot better than Jordy Ben. But what are your thoughts on the Hutton trade?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I do also think he's better than Jordy Ben. Obviously, like at this point, it's a depth move, right? Ideally, either he's your 6D or he doesn't play. Like this is just to me, this seems like okay, we want a depth guy. Apparently they've had interest in Hutton going back to like 2019 when he was a free agent. So they've clearly scouted this player. They clearly know what they're getting. He's a good PKer from what I've read and what I've seen. He's good like at transitioning the puck up, which fits in perfectly with this team. Either he pushes Dermott down, I think, or he's just your 7th for depth because we saw what happened last year. Jake Muzzin got hurt, and then you were relying on Martin Marincin again, which as much as I love that man, and as much as he scores some great goals sometimes.
One time.
Yes, one time. He's very nerve-wracking when he has the puck, and honestly, you're better off having someone else in the lineup at this point. So, I mean, ideally, like I said, he doesn't get into the lineup. I think Dermott's spot is going to Sandin anyways, because they seem kind of eager to get him into the lineup. But yeah, I don't hate it. He's your 7th or 8th D. If guys get hurt, he can probably step in and fill in decently.
Yeah. I think heading into today, like my one priority for the Leafs is to get a depth defenseman. It doesn't have to be like the shiniest player. That was the word I was looking for earlier. Shiniest. It's not like the shiniest player that they got in Rittich. And same with Hutton. It's not the shiniest guy that you could get. It's not a top 2D. It's not a top 40 even. Maybe not even a top 60, but it's still a good depth piece. And like, I think this player is kind of like in between a guy who's a bench player and a guy who's in the top 6, or a guy that's like in maybe the top 5 of your defensive core. He's in the middle there where he can play or he can sit. From what I've seen, he's a great skater. He likes to join the rush, but he's also very good in front of the net, and he's a good penalty killer. Also, not the oldest guy as well. He's still pretty young, and he's played on the Canucks. He's played on the Ducks. So I like it. As for, who might come out of the lineup, or if anybody does, maybe they look at putting him over Dermott to start, just to see how that goes. Because I don't think he's just going to be depth. I definitely think he can squeak his way into the lineup and make an impression on them. The thing with Sandin is just he hasn't played in so long. We're not sure what we're going to really get out of him. But I mean, Sandin would be the best case scenario, I would say. And if he comes in and plays well, the offensive upside that he brings will be very beneficial. But then again, what kind of playing style are the Leafs looking for? If they want a more like stay-at-home guy, Ben Hutton is the priority over Dermott or Sandin. So what do you think about that? Do you think Bogosian is enough just to have on the bottom pair for that stay at home, or what playing style would you like to see, I guess, on that bottom pair?
Well, I look at it like, even though like Bogosian is that guy, he's that stay at home guy. He also has like, honestly, I've been pretty surprised with his offensive instincts. Like he doesn't have the hands or like the skill to make those plays, but you see him consistently, like he's jumping into the rush. He's making himself an option. He's making himself someone that the defense has to worry about.
Yeah.
So I think Hutton can provide that as well. I agree. He's probably a bit better defensively than Dermott. He does have that offensive side as well. So I think I worry about going with guys who are just stay-at-home guys, because then you get into someone like Roman Polak, who doesn't offer much else, who can't do anything else. Like he's not even a pass option in the offensive zone. Cody Ceci comes to mind as well.
Yeah.
The amount of times rushes would die on Ceci's stick. I think the Leafs have built a decor that, while it's better defensively than it was in previous years, they're also very good at like they didn't sacrifice mobility for defense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Hutton's just another example of a guy who can fit in there. Obviously, like you said, if he makes an impression and plays well, like I'm not attached to Dermott. If he plays better than
I'm
Dermott,
not attached to Dermott at all.
Yeah, I think Dermott's going to Seattle, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Maybe.
I mean, I'm not sure who else. Maybe like Engvall or something, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you're losing much taking Dermott out for Hutton, other than Dermott's development at this point, which I don't know how much of a priority that is. But I do agree. Like I like the stay-at-home aspect, but I wouldn't just go with the stay-at-home aspect. I like everything he brings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think Hutton is just a stay-at-home guy too. Like like I said, he can skate. He's not a Roman Polak who just couldn't skate at all, or like a Bogosian who's just a net front presence. He can join the rush. I think like on Vancouver, like he was playing on the power play with the Sedins, like when they were still playing in like 2015, or even when in the Horvat era, he was on the power play with them before Quinn Hughes. I really like the pickup. He plays a lot of minutes on Anaheim. He's playing like 19 to 20 minutes a night. So I think this guy has to kind of squeak in.
Doughty in LA last year, I think.
Doughty in LA, yeah, exactly. That's a top 2 guy.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is like a nothing trade and he's just depth. I think they're going to give him a legit shot here to make the team and to start in the playoffs. And if they like what they see, I don't see a reason to take him out. So I feel like you can't go from a guy playing 19 minutes a night and just go to the bench. But
that's fair. Yeah.
It's 2 different teams.
Yeah.
But,
well,
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I don't think it's like there's no downside to it.
Exactly. There's no downside at all. Only a 5th round pick too. Like,
yeah,
it's good. Alex Barabanov, you wanted to talk. You just messaged me. Like I sent Farzan the notes. He's just like, we got to say goodbye to Alexander Barabanov.
I just.
So one year, not even a year, didn't last the year, didn't last to the trade deadline. Kind of like a Mikko Lehtinen kind of situation here. Just wanted to send him off to a new team and change of scenery. Might give him some more playing time, and it will on San Jose, I would assume. And we got back Antti Suomela. I don't know much about him other than I think I've seen his name in like the NHL video games before.
Yeah.
But do you think this was, I guess, the right move? And Yeah, I don't really know what to ask you. It's
Well,
like,
yeah.
what do you want to say to Alex Barabanov?
Well, like speaking of nothing trades, like this is probably as close to that as you're gonna get. Suomela, he's basically an AHL. He's played a bit for San Jose, but that's just because they have no forward depth at this point. Yeah. As for Barabanov, I just keep thinking back to that play on Saturday night where he had the empty net to get his first NHL goal and he missed. And
and now he's gonna get it with the Sharks. Maybe.
Well, I hope he scores one because honestly, I liked him. He very clearly wasn't meant for a bottom six role.
No.
And we saw that one game where he played with Nylander and Tavares. Like, he wasn't bad there. Like, he was like helping them generate chances. Obviously, like, I don't think he'd be good there long term, but like, he wasn't bad in that spot. So I think, going to a team like San Jose, hopefully he can carve out a spot for himself in the NHL. But I just wanted to.
I think he's
he should be mentioned.
He was kind of like a Dennis Mulligan kind of thing, you know. Tremendous skill, great hands. But the Leafs were playing him in a role that they wanted, him to be more defensively responsible or just provide a bit more like grittiness. And I don't think that's the guy. Like, he's just all skill based, He just wants to, do all the crazy skill moves and stick handle his way through the entire team. And that can work if you get the playing time and you can play with Matthews and Nylander and you can keep up with them. But clearly Barabanov is not that guy.
To his credit, he tried really hard in that bottom six role. He tried, like, that was the one sliding block in the first game, I think, where he just flew across the ice. That I remember. Like, he tried really hard, but like, there's only so you can't make a player like that play bottom six. That's just not their skill set.
Exactly. Yeah. So hopefully San Jose, puts him into at least a top 9 role. I would like to think maybe squeaks into the top 6 at some point. That would be nice to see. And Suomela, just good depth. So yeah. How do we like this team now? Trade deadline is passed. What are our thoughts on this Toronto Maple Leafs roster? If you get into the playoffs, any team can win the Stanley Cup. So we're just going to say that to start. But are we confident in this group? Like, maybe you can compare it to last year. If you look at the roster, like, there's been so much turnover. Where are you right now as a Leafs fan?
Honestly, yesterday I was a little bit more down on it. Same like with the Foligno trainer thing. After sleeping on it, I feel better. I've watched some Nick Foligno highlights a little bit. I've watched some of his dad's highlights.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I don't know how much that'll help, but
that definitely helps. It's good therapy.
If we want to go back, for sure. If we want to go back to last year, like, it's funny how much TJ Brody has just kind of like the defense core, and Justin Hall too. Like, those guys, like, Brody's so much, like, I feel calm when he's on the ice. Even when he's defending a 2-on-1, I'm like, I'm not as worried as I probably should be, because 90% of the time he has a good stick. He's going to either break up the pass or he's going to make them take a bad, like, probability shot. Like, I'm much more comfortable with this year's team over last year's. As for their makeup on the forward group, it seems just a lot more complete to me. Like, you have a mix of everything. You have your skill guys like Matthews, Marner. Thank God they're getting a full season to play together. It's been a lot of fun to watch that. Tavares, Nylander, they've had their moments there. The puck hasn't been going in as much for them, but like, they've still been top 6 players. Like, that's been good. Galchenyuk has emerged as a top 6 option so far. Hyman is Hyman. I've been very impressed with Engvall. Simmons has been a bit better than I expected. So is Spezza, honestly. The one disappointment is probably how Thornton's played the past few weeks.
Right.
I wonder if they consider sitting him, especially with Foligno now, just sitting him to a rest for the playoffs. Same with Simmons, just to like give him some time off because he's getting old. You can see it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a more complete team than we've seen in a very long time. And the moves today only serve to make them more well-rounded, I think.
100%. And just quickly going back to your Thornton point, like, especially if Robertson comes into the lineup now and he's playing tonight, if he stays into the lineup, then it's got to be like one of Thornton or Simmons probably coming out, because they won't take out Spezza. Like,
maybe Engvall.
Engvall will be out for sure, I think. because that like it's because Engvall isn't even in the lineup when everyone's healthy without Robertson. I don't think.
Yeah.
So he would be on the bench either way. I have liked Engvall though. He's a good fourth line center or winger. I don't know. I don't know. It's good depth to have. Yeah,
for sure.
The Leafs are a lot more of a complete team now. And, you know, it just really goes back to their first move of the offseason, I guess, with TJ Brody, like you mentioned, just establishing the identity that you want to, install with your players. We want to be a better defensive team. And that's how you kick it off with a great signing like that. And to sign into a long-term deal as well shows your commitment to that. And then just as the offseason goes along with Simmons and Joe Thornton and Bogosian, really just, helps with your leadership. They already had leadership, Tavares, Muzzin, Matthews, Hyman, Spezza, like so many great guys in there that can do good for your team. And then, just at the deadline now with Foligno, I think, adding another captain is really going to be beneficial. A guy who can play in the top six, because Simmons really can't play in the top six. He can if you want, but Foligno is a better top six player. Same with Joe Thornton. They tried him there and it worked for a stretch, but I don't think it's going to work anymore. It's really complete. They have the skill. They have the speed. They have that feistiness now with Foligno and Hyman. And we were worried about that with Kapanen leaving and Janssen leaving, but they've done a great job of replacing that. Kerfoot looks like he stepped it up a little bit too. I really like this team, and the defensive core has been great. And like shout out Kyle Dubas, honestly, like he's done everything that we've asked for. He's done everything that Leafs fans could have hoped that they would do at this trade deadline, I think, right? We didn't get Hall, but I wouldn't be too upset, Leafs Nation. We got a great player in Foligno. And the Leafs see their window of opportunity right now. Like Canadian division, you're playing against Canadian teams in the first two rounds of playoffs. There's a clear lane, a clear path to the Eastern Conference Final.
Directly, yeah.
And then if you win that one, you go to the Cup Final. And then who knows what happens there?
Yeah.
The Toronto Maple Leafs have made it clear to the rest of the league that they are going all in.
Yes.
And that's what it comes down to. You can't fault Dubas. There's nothing to fault him for. This team is now or never. like let's do it. Let's do this thing this year.
Yeah. One guy I realized we forgot to bring up is Riley Nash, who
Riley
could be a playoff piece if he's healthy. He's an elite defensive center that's just giving them more defensive depth. But yeah, I agree. Like this was just Dubash pushing his cards to the middle. I think he said a couple weeks ago. He even said this last year. He said last year that players have to earn like deadline acquisitions. And then we saw he didn't really do anything last year because the David Ayres game was the last game before the trade deadline. And he's basically like, okay, screw you guys. You don't deserve this, which probably wasn't wrong about that. I don't blame him. And then this year, he said that a couple weeks ago when they were in a little bit of a skid, and they responded by going, okay, you know what? We're going to reel off 6 of 7, 7 of 8 now?
What is it? No, it's 11 in a row, isn't it? Or no, it's not, right?
That's
Cam was 11 in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's like something like 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's been a good few weeks, right?
Yeah,
to his credit, he said, okay, you guys showed me. Now I'm going to help you out. And I think the player's going to like that because that goes with that,
it goes a long way.
Yeah. I think back to the Blue Jays. It was 2014 when Bautista wasn't pleased because Anthopoulos didn't do anything at the deadline. And Anthopoulos was basically like, okay, you're not good enough. And then the next year when they showed him, he was like, okay, I'm going to get Tulo. I'm going to get David Price. I'm going to get all these guys. So to me, that's Dubas saying, all right, you guys have shown me what you can do. I'm going to help you out. And now it's all up to you guys. I've given you the tools to succeed. Now just do the thing.
Yeah. And I would have been really upset if we did nothing too, because this is the year to do it.
Agreed.
And Dubas understood that
100%.
Everything with COVID in the Canadian division. And plus your team is second place in the entire NHL right now. You can win the President's Trophy. That's crazy to think about. Yeah. And you have to go on all in. This is your chance to actually, win. So I think it was a successful trade deadline. they couldn't have done really much more. I'm pleased with basically everything. Like I like I could be nitpicky about it and say like we could have got maybe a top 4 defenseman, but we didn't really need it. And I'm happy with this team. I'm confident that this team can make it out of the first round. Hopefully, let's pray.
Oh, God, if they don't make it out of the first round, then
I don't know what happens.
At that point, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
I honestly don't know what would happen if we don't make it out of the first round. Second round, if we don't make it out, a bit more understandable. But still, it's really hard to not see this team making it to at least the third round.
I agree with that.
And that might be some bias, but I don't know. I think they have the great shot.
Yeah. With the state of the division. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
With the state of the division, anything less than the conference finals is a disappointment for me, to be quite honest.
Exactly, yeah. We got to make it there, and then who knows what happens from then on out. So let's do it. Let's do it this year.
Let's go.
I think that's all we should talk about with the Leafs. We ended that on a good note. So other trades. We're not going to touch on every single trade. I just got like 4 written down here. Some of the big ones. Taylor Hall was, the big fish at the trade deadline. Didn't go for a big fish price though. And it stunned me when I saw it last night. Like, did you see it last night or did you wake up to it?
I saw it last night right before I went to bed. My friend who's in my section, who's also studying for the exam, texted me with the trade, and I told him something that I probably can't repeat here when I heard the price. And also Boston, man. Like,
yeah, it had to be
Boston. Like, I was reading some things today. Hall's comments made it seem like he really wanted to go to Boston. So I don't know how much the no movement clause played into that, but I also heard that apparently like the price was a 3rd round pick, and then the Capitals stepped up their offer and the Bruins were like, okay, like our panic move is a 2nd round pick, which like, I don't know how reputable that is. That's what I like. Andrews Bjork and
what is Buffalo thinking? I mean, I said it in the group chat. Like it feels like every single other NHL team just came together and came to an agreement that like, hey,
God,
we're not gonna offer Buffalo more than a 2nd round pick.
And they retained half.
Yeah. Well, we knew that. We knew that had to happen.
Yeah, like I figured that would bump the price up at least to but like, especially given the other deals, like Sam Bennett got a better return than like we'll get to that next than Taylor Hall did. Like Andrews Bjork for Curse Lazar is nothing. Like Anthony, like I don't know.
Taylor Hall is not himself. So people might be listening right now and be like, Taylor Hall is like he's awful this year. He's awful. But keep in mind, he is on the worst team in the National Hockey League without their best player, Jack Eichel. It's just him. It's him and Jeff Skinner.
Jeff Skinner has been on the 4th line half the season. Like
they're 2 highest paid players. One guy on the 1st line in Hall, and then the next guy on the 4th line. And Darlene has been garbage. Their goalies have been injured. Like it's an awful
Sam
situation.
Reinhart's kind of there, but like the thing with that is like I look at Taylor Hall and if you look at some of the numbers, like he's still play driving this year. He's still very good at like zone entries. He's still good at setting up chances. It's just not just the bad team. His shooting percentage has sucked. Like if he was shooting his career average, he'd have, I think it was like 3 times the amount of goals that he has now. Like he's shooting something
How many
ridiculous,
goals does he have? Like
3-4% or something like that.
3 goals on the
even on that team. It was like 2.
Yeah. Okay, check. so like triple that. 6 goals on the year.
Yeah, like but like that would look so much better if like the team around him could like finish. He has, let's see. He has 2 goals and he's shooting 2.3%.
Okay, that's
his career average is 10% on the dot.
Yeah, okay.
And that's with the season bringing it down.
Okay, that's better then. Yeah, the shooting percentage, like that's a big stat you got to look at. Like Taylor Hall normally should not be shooting 2%. Nobody should be shooting 2%, especially a guy getting paid that much money and playing the minutes that he does. Put him on Boston, and I'm sure he'll do better.
I think he'll do well. He's going to get some more shelter time unless they decide to put him with Bergeron, which they might. But I think you put him with Krejci and Craig Smith, or however you want to do it. that line's going to be seeing like the 3 and 4 defensemen, the 5 and 6 defensemen, as opposed to like the top two. The Bergeron line's going to eat up all that heavy competition. I think he's going to thrive there. That's the biggest thing, like, that disappointed for me.
I think
like about
you like wait, what was it? What was the biggest thing that disappointed you?
Like that, I don't know, Boston got him, they got him so cheap, and I think it's a very good situation for him, so he's going to thrive there. Like from like a Leaf fan perspective.
Maybe he might. I don't know. He's really going to have to step up his game though, because 2 goals to this. And I know it's a completely different team. Boston necessarily hasn't been like the Boston Bruins, like the typical Bruins this year.
They lost 8-1 yesterday.
Exactly. So they needed this guy to help them out. Mm-hmm. I think you optimize the lineup a little bit if you're Boston. You put Pasternak and Hall on one line, and you put Marchand and Bergeron on one line, and just stack your top 6. I think a Krejci, Hall, and Pasternak line would terrifying. Be the best second line in the National Hockey League. And then Bergeron and Marchand alone can carry a line too.
That's true.
You put Craig Smith up there, who's been on a hot streak lately. Mm-hmm. That's another great line. Or you can even flip-flop, 1A, 1B. I think that's kind of what you have to look at.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, the big concern this year with Boston is their defense. Like,
oh yeah,
McAvoy's out right now. Like Grzelcyk's out. Kevin Miller is out. There's one other guy that's out. I can't name's not coming to mind right now. But yeah, Carlo. Sorry, yeah, he's still not back from that Wilson garbage. But anyways, like they got Mike Riley, so that's gonna help them out. I don't know. Boston's a weird team this year. Like sometimes they'll look like their usual dominant selves, and then other times like they'll just get killed. Like it wasn't even close yesterday. Like it was done after the first period.
Well, even with their goalie situation right now, is Halak and Raska, they're still out,
they're both hurt. Yeah, so it's Vladar and Swayman, who've been decent, but Vladar got lit up yesterday.
Yeah, and that's not gonna win you. You can't have that tandem. But injuries happen, and the Penguins are going through it right now too. They got a ton of injuries, but I think the Bruins probably have it worst. But when the Bruins are healthy, they'll be a much better team, obviously. That's true. McAvoy will eat up a ton more minutes. Carlo, Grzelcyk, like you said.
That's their 3 best D, like right there.
Yeah, and they're all out. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely surprised me, this return. Didn't think, just a second. And also, like, Lazard, too. I don't know if you can count him out.
He's like he's a 4th liner at this point. Yeah, that's true. Like,
but they still got him.
Bjork is just, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, him and Bjork is like a swap, I guess. I probably, I don't
Bjork's
know.
a bit younger, but he's not.
I don't know.
What I've heard about Bjork is like he's good, like grinding stuff. He just doesn't have the skill to finish,
right?
Which is like the opposite of what Buffalo needs right now. They have too many guys who have the grind and just can't finish. But yeah, I don't know. Like I don't understand this at all from a Buffalo perspective. From Boston's perspective, I think they're thinking, okay, we lucked out. We can do something here. But yeah, like they've got to get healthy. Otherwise, they might have not even make the playoffs with the Rangers on the tear that they've been on recently.
Yep. Doesn't look like it's going to be Philly, but the Rangers.
Yeah, God. Philly sold.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they signed Lawton.
They got Lawton, yeah.
But yeah, they traded Raffle and Gustafson, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Boston, if they get healthy, they got a chance. And I think most importantly, their goalies have to get healthy too, because Vladar and Swayman won't cut it. But Taylor Hall's off to Boston, shipping off to Boston, but we're shipping off to Pittsburgh right now because Jeff Carter is now a Pittsburgh Penguin. That's a weird look. He was on the Flyers. I remember that series very well as a Penguins fan. Him, Daniel Briere, Mike Richards, like just
the dream team.
Annoying fans in Philadelphia. And I remember getting blown out a couple times there. That wasn't fun. But so, the Penguins acquired Carter from the LA Kings for a 2022 third round pick, conditional, and another conditional 2023 fourth round pick. I think it's reasonable. I think it's a pretty good trade for the Penguins right now, especially with Malkin out. You need someone to replace him. Whether that be on the second line or the third line. I've liked McCann. I don't think he's been terrible, replacing Malkin, like it's a tough guy to replace, but I think he's done a good job stepping into the top 6, a spot there that he's not really familiar or comfortable with. But he's done a good job. But Carter, clearly the better upgrade, and he's going to provide so much more depth, leadership. He knows Crosby well. They played with each other on the world stage. And you didn't really have to give up too much to get him. And this is just another sign that, Pittsburgh is not done yet. They are looking for another Stanley Cup with this core. And I like the move. I'm not like Jeff Carter. He's a bit old. I don't think he's washed up completely though. And you know what? It's a good trade. I like it. What about you?
One question. They LA retained, right? They retained half,
25%.
Oh, 25%. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with you mostly. I agree that like he's definitely not washed. He's still a decent player. He's good for between 50 and 20 goals.
Yeah, maybe not even 20. Yeah.
Not even 20.
Like 10 to 15.
Yeah, 10 to 15 now. Whether he's better than McCann or not, I don't know about that, but that's
I'm not saying that, but like
oh.
I mean, like McCann's done a good job just stepping in for Malkin in the top 6 when they're healthy. Like Carter's the third line guy, McCann's the third line winger.
Oh, for sure. Okay, yeah.
Like I think right now it would be Carter over McCann on the second line.
Okay, well, yeah, I agree with that then. Like he's still a shooter. He's got those offensive instincts. He's got the experience. Like you said, he knows Crosby. My one worry is that contract. It's got another year left at it was like 5.3 or something. LA retaining does help with that a little bit. I don't know what the Penguins contract situation really is right now. But I assume if they made that deal, like they know, like they've got like a plan in place. I don't think they have many big names to sign right now, right? Crosby has a year left after this one.
Yeah, Malkin's got a few more. Like I think he's got 2 years, Malkin. But I don't think there's any like big name guy that they got to sign. Like they locked up Jari, so they don't have to worry about him. Gensel's locked up long term. Maybe like Jason Zucker, he could be a free agent coming up.
I just opened up Cap Friendly, so Zucker has 2 years left, or 1 year left. No, 2 years left after this one. The biggest name I can see is Cody Ceci and Zach Aston Reese. Exactly. Like those are the only names they have to sign. Like yeah, you're right. Yeah, like I like this is.
I mean, there is obviously still the risk. I think
they would have liked to get someone better, but
yeah.
Sorry, I think I froze there for a second.
Audio is a little bit off, but you're good. Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying? You're talking about risk.
Yeah, no, it is risky just the second year of that contract because of how much money he makes. And if this goes wrong and he doesn't produce, at all in the rest of the regular season and the playoffs, then you're paying a guy a lot of money to be your third line center. And if he's not producing, then you kind of have to hold on to him for the rest of that season. And the Penguins next year at the trade deadline will probably be looking to add again. And, he might take up too much of your cap. So that's the risk with it. Yeah. But if you win, or I don't think the Penguins will win the cup this year, but if they make it to the, Eastern Conference final, that's a big win for them, I think. Nobody really expected that to happen this year. So it just makes them better.
Yeah. Yeah, I just checked. Actually, LA retained half, which is better than I expected. Okay. Okay. So he's on the books for Jeff Carter right now on the books for 2.6 to play on your third line, give you veteran leadership, power play, just be your shot there. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'd be surprised if they win the cup or make the conference final, but I don't think this hurts them at all. I think it gives them a better shot than they had before.
For sure. And yeah, good guy in the power play as well. So yeah, I like the move. We got 2 more to talk about. Sam Bennett, who has been rumored in trade talks for, I think, ever since the season started, really.
He asked for a trade, yeah.
He asked for the trade. He wanted out of Calgary, and they finally sent him off to Florida, along with a 2022 6th-round pick They traded him to Florida for a 2022 second and prospect Emil Heineman. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And he is also a former second round pick. So they kind of got 2 seconds for Bennett, which is more than what the Buffalo Sabres got for Taylor Hall. Yeah, I mean, Bennett's an interesting player. He never really fit in Calgary. He was playing top 6, top 9, dropped down to the 4th line. And I think, Florida's looking at him as a guy who's suited for the 3rd line. He's going to provide, some depth scoring, maybe. I don't know if they're really looking for the scoring. They got the big boys up front, but he can, bang home a couple goals here and there. But most importantly, just that feistiness, physicality that Florida is lacking. They have Patrick Hornquist, who's a bit of a pest, and he's good in front of the net. But I think Sam Bennett just adds to that and will help them in the playoffs. It's a good playoff guy, but he's a risky player, and it's hit or miss. It's hit or miss with Bennett
for sure,
because he might not be able to find his groove. But do you think the price was right for Florida to give up for him?
I think they overpaid a bit. I was kind of surprised with the moves Florida made at this deadline. Like Brandon Montour, he's like, it's funny because Florida, like, I don't know if anyone expected them to be this good this year. Like, they've been giving Tampa tough times, they've given Carolina tough times, even without, like, Bobrovsky hasn't been that great. Drieger's been decent, but like they haven't been amazing. It's been like the top 6, like Verhaeghe stepped up, Mason Marchment's in their top 6, Hornquist has had kind of a resurgent year almost, and the depth has been good. I'm looking at their like lineup right now. I think Bennett fits perfectly onto that 3rd line with Achari and Vetrano. That's a line that's got a lot of bite, that's got a lot of skill.
Yeah,
or
wow.
Like skill as in like they're good at like making things difficult for the other team in the offensive zone. They're very good at forechecking.
Yeah,
I think Bennett will help that. I agree with what you said about him in Calgary. I think he was labeled as something that he was not. Initially, they were like, oh, he's a center because he had a ridiculously good year at center in his overage year in junior. And then it was, oh, he's going to like be a top line guy. Oh, he's going to be your 3rd line. Like they talked about this on the trade like deadline thing today. I think BXO was talking about that, but like they never really defined his role for him. And they were just like they just kept flip-flopping around, and that never gave him the chance to kind of like settle and get some stability in his role, which is something a lot of players need. Because if you're flip-flopping up and down the lineup a lot, like it's hard, right? Because you're expected to do different things in different spots. I think here where it's like, okay, you're 100% going to play on the 3rd line, unless they just switch him with Marchment, which they could also do. But I think Quenneville's going to be like, okay, this is your role. You're going to stay here. You're going to do what we want you to do on this line. I think that'll be very good for him. With that said, they paid more than they paid for Taylor, than Bonds paid for Taylor Hall. Like, sorry, what's the guy's name? Heineman,
yeah.
Yes, he was Florida's 2nd round pick last year. So you're getting him and you're getting a 2nd round pick this year. Like, I know we've talked about a weak draft, but like
Taylor Hall.
It's still, like it's I don't know. I feel like that's more of an indictment on Buffalo, but still, I don't think Sam Bennett's worth that much. Like just in a vacuum.
Yeah, so. It does seem like it's a lot. And I mean, Heineman alone, I haven't read much about him, but he might turn out to be a better player than Bennett. Then plus you're getting a 2nd round pick as well, and who knows what that is. It's a 2nd round pick, and they could mess up that pick, Calgary, but still it's an asset. I thought it was going to be a lot cheaper. I thought, Bennett for like a 3rd, Bennett for a 4th, because he wanted out. There was no question there. And big shout out to Calgary for really just like they could have traded him as soon as he asked for the trade. But they probably wouldn't have gotten this package back because it's fresh off of the trade request, and teams know that he wants out. They're trying to get rid of him fast. They want to get him out of here for cheap. But now you wait to the last possible second, and this trade came in like really, really close to the deadline as well.
Wire,
So I think it's a very smart play for the Calgary Flames there. They didn't seem to think Bennett would be a fit long term, and you get back to 2nd round picks. It's a great trade for them. So Yeah, good on them. Treliving looked a little bit upset in his press conference.
Yeah, not sure what that was about.
Yeah, maybe they're working on something bigger. Maybe.
Gaudreau.
Or he just hates the media. That might be the case. It's been a bad year in Calgary, so
yeah, I don't
makes
envy him.
sense. But yeah, Sam Bennett is off to Florida and he's going to help with their playoffs. So, another team that is, fighting for first place in their division right now, the Washington Capitals. This one really surprised me too. Like, they gave up Vrana. They gave up Panik, who aren't bad. Like, Vrana is a good player.
Oh, for sure.
Panik is, a good player too.
He's a third liner.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, I think Panik is like either a third liner or a bench guy. Like, you can't put him on the fourth line.
Yeah, he's a skill guy.
Yeah, he's a skill guy. Yeah. But then, the big guy in this trade, Anthony Mantha, he's off to Washington from Detroit. This is the trade. Mantha to Washington for Vrana, Panik, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. That is quite a lot for Mantha, who is arguably a bust at this point. Like, he's not a young guy anymore. He's like 25, 26 years old. Farzan's like questioning what I just said, like, bust already. I think he has 10 goals this year in like over 40 games. I know it's Detroit and he could really turn his career around on Washington. But Vrana, I love Vrana. Like, I think Vrana is better than Mantha.
Yeah.
So I really don't like this trade for Washington. I love this trade for Detroit. Like, shout out Detroit. They stole a trade in NFL with Matthew Stafford. They got like 2 firsts for him. And now you get a first round pick and a second, plus a guy who's better than the player you traded away, and another guy. Like, they keep stealing these deals. Yeah. Are you kind of just in the same boat that I am?
I mean, overall, I agree. Like, Washington massively overpaid. I don't understand what happened. I don't know if this was just like at the last second, they're like, okay, we need to get this done. Fine, we're gonna take your offer, or if
we'll give you the first.
Talk them. Yeah, like when I first saw the tweet, I was like, wait, this isn't real. I had to check if it was a verified account like 3 times. Like, is this a typo? What? Like, I wouldn't go as far as call Mantha bust, because in the last 2 full seasons, in 2017-18, he had 48 points in 80 games. In 2018-19, he had 48 points in 67 games.
Okay, that's good.
He would have broken 30 goals that year. Last year, he had 38 and 43, which is still a better pace.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
This year's been a bit of a down year. He's battled some injuries. And obviously Detroit's just straight up tanking at this point, right? Like, let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
I'm wary with taking stats from a guy like that on a team like Detroit. I think in Washington, he's going to flourish. He's going to play with either Kuznetsov or Backstrom. I'd assume Kuznetsov. I think, again, it's like the same thing with Taylor Hall, right? Like, instead of playing like top line minutes against like a team's top D against their top forward group, he's probably going to get a little bit more shelter, like second line time. He'll get power play time. Like, it just gives Washington another sniper.
Yep.
Like another play for Ovechkin, right? But they massively overpaid. Like, sorry, can you hear my background?
It's like a little bit of a conversation going in the back. No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Sorry.
You just close your door? Okay.
Yeah, I just closed my door.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Sorry, should we restart that segment?
No, we're good. We're continuing.
Okay.
We're fine.
Yeah, so what I was saying is just, why did Washington pay that much? Like, I guess the same kind of thing as Pittsburgh, where they've only got a few more years left. Ovechkin's a free agent, I think, either this year or next year. Like, he's getting older. He's not going to be Superman forever. Like, same with Backstrom. He's getting up there. Oshie too. Like, this is, I guess, maybe they think it's their final kick of the can. Like, okay, we can get to the conference finals, and then who knows what happens there. And I think Bantha gives them a shot to do that. But, like, that's a lot, man. Like, a first and a second. Vrana, from what I've read, he didn't get Laviolette. He wasn't Laviolette's favorite player.
He was great last year, though.
Oh, for sure he was. I agree.
Like, Yeah, I don't think like the coach should have that big of an impact on the
Oh,
trade. Like
100%. I
even if you
agree.
don't like him, like
Yeah.
it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, Vrana is better than Mantha. And
He was a
then
healthy scratch twice this year, Prana, I think.
yeah, you're right. I remember reading that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I think maybe I have no explanation. I have no
Yeah.
explanation
Like,
for why they would do this, but good on
yeah.
Detroit. They
Good
think
on Steve
that
Eiserman.
they think that Vrana and Panic can be better than Mantha. I think they will. So yeah, that's really it. I don't know what else to say about this one. I texted
Yeah. Like,
my manager from work. He's a big Red Wings fan. Messaged him right away about this.
ooh.
He's hyped about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. It was a
Yeah.
good trade deadline. It was good. Ended with a bang, buzzer beater trade there. But we are happy and content with what the Leafs did. And yeah, I think that's really about it for the show. Farzan, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was fun. Yeah, it's been a fun couple days watching the trades roll in. It's always a fun time of year. So
Yeah, it's always a fun time around the trade deadline. I would like to see more trades happen on deadline day, but I think they were talking about it on Sportsnet too. Like
yeah,
so many more GMs have figured out like why don't we get these players in a bit earlier, especially
exactly.
this year with the quarantine too.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Nick Foligno gonna make his debut maybe sometime next week with the Toronto Maple Leafs, depending on when he gets back from that injury.
David
And it
Rittich
is
probably tomorrow.
yeah, you think so?
Maybe I'd assume so because they're playing Calgary. So
Oh wait, did you say Rittich? I didn't hear what you said.
yeah, Rittich.
Oh, you said
Sorry,
Rittich.
sorry,
Oh,
sorry. No,
I
no, I
thought
said Rittich. Yeah,
my
sorry,
bad.
my
I
bad.
couldn't hear. I thought you said Foligno. Rittich tomorrow night would be quite something against the Flames. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. Big Leafs game tonight against Montreal. Is it already on? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's on. It's on. It's
Damn.
all good. It's on. It's on.
They're losing 1-0.
They're losing. Oh, I didn't even see that. Yeah, it's a start. Oh,
Hey,
unfortunate start. All right.
hey, it's all good. You know, as soon as we get off this podcast, they'll be winning. So Jack Campbell looking to make it 12 in a row, but we will see you guys next week. And yeah, that's it. We'll be watching the Leafs game. So bye.